in society where a lot of people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, look at the polls. They do not want the current administration and the leading front runner for the Republican Party to be in a rematch. So I stumbled upon No Labels. I think this is a really great organization. Joe Cunningham is the national director of the organization. He's on the line now. Joe, if everything's all good with you, I'd love to start the conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. Great to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And with that being said, just right off the bat, if you could give our audience a little bit of an overview of what No Labels is about. You're a former United States Congressman, a Democratic candidate for governor yourself. What's this No Labels movement mean to you, and what should it mean to all of us?
So No Labels, it's a C4. It's a nonprofit that's been around over 12 years. And, I call it the best kept secret up there in D.C., because when I got up there, I was elected in 2018, one of the biggest upsets in that entire cycle, a Democrat flipping a red district that hadn't had a Democrat in 40 years. I ran on the spirit of bipartisanship, bringing people together. And I got up to D.C., realized there weren't any groups that put Democrats and Republicans at a table regularly together to try to work on our problems. And save for the Problem Solvers Caucus, which was a group, half Democrats, half Republicans, that was started by No Labels. And eventually there was an arm, extended over into the Senate, so that there were regular meetings between members and senators, which some of your listeners may be surprised to know that there's very little crossover. There's, very little conversations that happen, save for at the very top, like leadership level, between the speaker and the leaders. But for other members, they don't really have much of a regular connection to senators. So again, No Labels group spearhead these other groups and projects. And, recently the group has turned its attention towards this presidential election in 2024 because of these alarming statistics that the majority of Americans aren't happy with our options and the presumptive nominees. So right now, No Labels, it's securing ballot access across the country in 50 states plus DC, so that if next spring comes and the country still feels the same about our presumptive presidential nominees and they want another option, No Labels will offer that ballot line to a bipartisan ticket, Democrat, Republican, or Republican and Democrat, to give folks another choice.
Wow. And that's actually spearheaded towards my next question was, will No Labels run a ticket? And so for all of us, just kind of keeping our eyes out for spring to see if that need is still there.
Yeah, it kind of depends. So here's our benchmarks. In March, we have Super Tuesday, where historically we know by then or after then, shortly after, who the major party presumptive nominees are. All right. So right now it looks like Trump and Biden. Things change. So that's why we want to wait, find out if the two major nominees are the two that Americans hold such unfavorable opinions about. And then No Labels, we have our convention in Dallas, Texas in mid-April. And between those 2 dates in March and April, we will decide whether or not to nominate a ticket, and if so, what that ticket looks like. And the two thresholds we have to pass in order to nominate a ticket are, number one, are the two major nominees viewed so unfavorable by the majority of Americans? And does America want another choice? And secondly, can this ticket win? Because it's about percentage of the votes. You have to win in full college and realize that. So is there a pathway to victory? Our data and polling that was done last year showed that there is a pathway to victory in the Electoral College. However, things could change when names are added to it or dynamics in the Democratic and Republican nominees.
And, that's such a fascinating concept, too. And I'm really intrigued because, sir, you've had the opportunity to travel the country and meet all walks of life. And I'm sure that when you're talking with folks, did it ever surprise you that maybe a lot of Americans feel the same way about certain issues? It's just maybe a different approach to get to that solution?
Yeah, look, I mean, the truth is Americans are around the middle. Some are a little bit to the left, some are a little bit to the right. But, unfortunately, it feels like they feel like they're represented by extremes in DC, and most Americans can find some consensus, even upon the most divisive issues, whether it be abortion or whether it be immigration or healthcare. But we're not seeing a lot of that in DC. It's gotten worse and worse. And you sit down and you talk to folks all across this country, they're scratching their heads and they're looking at these presumptive nominees and thinking, like, have we really come full circle in 4 years? Like, this is the best that we have to choose from? And a lot of people are frustrated. And the party system isn't set up in a way that gives people these more options. So I think an alternative line on the ballot or third party or whatever you want to call it, even though no label is not party. But I get the skepticism when looking at history. However, nobody can deny that we are in unprecedented times right now. We have almost half Americans who identify as independent right now. We have 70% of Americans who don't think Biden should run for re-election. 60-something% think the same about Trump. We're just very in uncharted waters right now. And if there's ever been an opportunity for something like this to emerge, I think the time has been now.
And following on top of that too, with the discourse, and really some of these issues and not really being able to work together. I was going to ask you, and I don't want to go too deep into this if you don't want to, but I've been going into this redistricting and gerrymandering and just really seeing how it affects local governments and statewide governments and how it might corner certain candidates on both sides of the aisle to never lose an election unless it's a primary. Do you think that adds to a national dissatisfaction?
1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, we have now where politicians are picking their voters instead of allowing voters to pick their politicians. And, I've seen it up close and personal where the only elections that people worry about now are their primaries. And so oftentimes they have to go to the most extreme end, either left or the right. And, this is something I fought hard for in Congress, whether it be behind H.R. 1 to ban, to ban gerrymandering and have independent redistricting. But and this is my personal opinion, and no labels hasn't has been focused on the problem solvers caucus, the unity ticket, but I feel that it has divided our country more, and oftentimes people feel like their vote doesn't matter if they show up for a general election because the way the lines have been drawn, and that leads to bigger problems in our democracy. Voters drop off the rolls, they don't show up because they don't feel like their vote makes a difference. Leads to more apathy. It leads to the erosion of democracy as we see it, and it's led to a lot of the problems we have. And specifically speaking towards members in Congress, they won't want to work across the aisle. Bipartisanship is because what happens is it comes back to bite them in their own primary. The party cites the boogeyman on the other side of the aisle and says this person worked with them on whether it be X, Y, or Z. And so it becomes a liability instead of an asset. And that's because of the way that, the way the lines have been drawn in all these districts. There's 435 seats, and there may be, 15 of them that are competitive this cycle, or 20. So it's, my personal opinion is it is bad all around. Well, and both parties have engaged in it too.
Without a doubt. And not to cut you off there, I just found it so fascinating to see maybe how this kind of ties in together. But I was going and doing some research on no labels. And recently, it seems like both parties are kind of going, hey, we don't like this because it could take away from our voter turnout in the 2024 election. I mean, is that alone giving them enough to go, well, maybe it's time that we start reevaluating what we're doing going forward this election cycle?
I mean that's a great point. It should be a shot across the bow to both major parties to stop and think, okay, am I giving people something to vote for as opposed to something to vote against? And as we talk to people across this country, that's where their vote is right now. In a binary choice right now, they're just trying to decide who to vote against. And look, these aren't. Our polling and our data shows that pulls evenly from both sides. Obviously, it depends on who's at the top of the ticket, and as well as other factors that get to be determined. But this is the United States of America, and we value our freedom. We value our choices. These aren't a person's voters. These are these are citizens of the United States. These are voters that don't belong to a particular candidate or even party, quite frankly. But we're only preparing to offer that ballot line if Americans want it. If Americans don't want it, then we won't offer it, or we'll take it down at a later date. But we just feel like, and this has been the work of No Label. It's been creating this space in the middle where disaffected folks can stand and realize that the majority of us believe in these common sense solutions, and that working across the aisle and working together is not only effective, but it's the right thing to do.
Without a doubt. And before I let you go, I really appreciate your time and really think this is just such a fascinating concept. And I really hope this continues to grow, because I think, like you said, there's so many of us that are dissatisfied on both sides of the aisle. And before I do let you go, I know that we're still a ways away. We got a couple of months. But is No Labels, willing at this point to look at age, to look at, some of those issues that maybe why a certain individual doesn't want that candidate to run? Are you guys looking to have any type of younger ticket, somebody that's currently in office? I know we're a ways away, but just wanted to touch on it if we could.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think we're going to start that process. I'm not trying to be coy with you. We're going to probably start that process later on in the year, early next. We're finalizing our nomination process, what that looks like. Again, I think it comes back to giving people we're aware of what the polls say about Biden and Trump, and what the pros and cons are of both. And if we offer a ballot line, it's going to be a ballot line. It's going to give people an opportunity to vote for someone as opposed to against. But we're very, very in tune with the pulse of this country and what voters are wanting. And, if we offer a ballot line, we'll be looking to tap into that and
absolutely
service the country and giving people another voice and another choice.
Absolutely. And Mr. Cunningham, before I do let you go, for folks at home that want to learn more, maybe want to be a part of this organization, what's the best way to get that information? Is it just the No Labels website?
Yeah, you can go nolabels.org. We put out a booklet called Common Sense, which is a reflection of poll-driven, data-driven results on where the majority of the country stands on even the divisive issues. But go to nolabels.org, follow us on social media, and continue to watch as we're trying to bridge this partisan divide that exists in this country. Without
a doubt. And Mr. Cunningham, again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it here in the St. Louis area. And if you ever want to come back on, if we get more movements here, more developments, we'd love to have you and hear more insights on No Labels.
Look forward to coming back. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. We'll take a quick break here in downtown Alton. More of our daily show comes back to all of you next after this.